Alrighty, welcome everyone. I'm Teeaboo and I am here for 86, episode 20. Last time on 86, it's super early in the morning, by the way. I just rolled out of bed and decided to start recording because that's what I feel like doing today. Last time on 86, we found ourselves deep behind enemy lines, seeking out the Morpho to destroy this giant rail cannon that will destroy all of us if we don't destroy it. So, and it was really cool. We had some really great action sequences until we discovered that the Morpho was not where the Morpho is, and instead had been repositioned elsewhere as part of a trick, a trap, a bait to bring in Sheen and his squad and explode the fuck out of them in a really cool explosion, by the way. Great scene. I've watched it like 4 times now, and just the sequence of like... Oh, it's rad. We didn't get exploded, which is nice, and none of our primary squad is super dead yet, which is nice. But we also didn't get to explode the Morpho because after an interesting interaction between Kyria, aka Pale Rider, and his seeming boss, No Facey, who I'm gonna stick with my theory. There have been comments of people being like, "It couldn't be him. That's not the thing." I'm sticking with my theory. I think it is, and now I know his name. It is Vaclav. It's Vaclav, not Vaslav, right? Vaclav. I think it is Lena's dad. It's the way that I would write this, man. We got this one character other than Ray who's like a relative of a character and is important and went out into the place, and then that has no head, and it's like, it kind of makes sense to me. Now, I could be totally wrong, and that would be totally fine with me, but I'm sticking with it because that seems like the crazy resonant sort of thing that you would want to do here in this kind of story for fun. Because it would be interesting. And let's see, was there anything else? Oh yeah, we got some sequences showing Kyria's perspective on the death of Frederica, which is interesting, but we kind of already knew it. And he is just the Morpho heading down a big old train track, getting ready to do some murder. Great. Speaking of Frederica, she stowed away. We know about this. She stowed away. Nobody was happy with her having stowed away, and so Sheen has dispatched Raiden to take her back home, and we'll see how that goes, if it goes well at all. Okay, I believe that's mostly everything about episode 19 of 86. Let's go ahead and dive into episode 20 of 86. Once again, I've got the Vita Winter subs. They were provided to me, I think, yesterday. Oh yeah, and I'm a day late on 86. If you're a YouTuber, you're not going to notice, but if you're a Patreon, I'm sorry. It was not a good idea to record yesterday. It's a much better idea to record today. Just trust me on this. That's all I'll say. Okay, 86. Episode 20, the big 2-0. I've also heard, I'm just going to mention something that I've heard because I've heard this. It's a thing. I've heard that the last 2 to 3 episodes of 86 are like, like awesome. And so I know that people want me to watch all of them at once and like watch 2 episodes today and watch 2 episodes tomorrow. I'm probably going to take this slow, piece by piece. Just saying. Okay. Let's watch episode 20 of 86. I've got it up and ready to go. I'm using the Vita Winter subs. There will be 2 versions, picture-in-picture in the description, timer on YouTube, beep beep timer to count you down. If you want to sync up your own copy with the beep beep timer version, you're more than welcome to do so. Just get your copy ready because the beep beep timer to count you down will be coming at you right quick. Likes, comments, subscribes, all good things, all very helpful. Don't mind those at all. And if you want a little bit of early access to the last couple of chapters of the 86 experience, those will be going up on Patreon when this one goes up on YouTube, so check those out. It's linked in the description. Cool, that's it. Let's get going. I'm gonna put my hairband on. I'm in that stage where the hair is just like half an inch too short to just put under the headphones, so I still need the band. All right, well then, let's get into it. So, BB timer for episode 20 of 86. Zoom, it's a plane. Oh, it's not a plane anymore. That boy with the strange powers. Okay. Okay. Yeah, it's hard to fight a hive mind. Hmm. So it's kind of like the Eintagsfliege. It's like our own version of it. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, that makes sense. Desperate times. Desperate times. Yeah, for sure. Are those literally planes exploding? Is that what's going on? I don't It seems like those are full planes that are just kamikaze exploding in midair. I hope they're drones. I'm sure they're drones. They must be unmanned vehicles. They have to be. This song has a really good gallop to it. Not in terms of like a metal gallop, but like it's got a good gallop to it. Good. It's good. It's good. That's all. It's just good. Oh, he's got the beepity bops. Hmm. Mm-hmm. Desperate times. So wait, what happened with Frederica? You're the only one who can. Yeah. Yeah. I don't like that. Yeah, you don't want to get into a scrap in their territory. Whoa, line. Also, this framing and area, it's Gatori-esque in some ways. Lots of divides. Another one. This is juicy. Yeah, then fuck all of you. Oh, he's hedgehogging, man. Stop hedgehogging, Sheen. He's marching toward a punch, man. Yeah, the glorious self-sacrifice act. The glorious self-sacrifice act. Yep. How dare you? That's a line and an implication. I love it. He doesn't know. Simple. But Sheen... But does Sheen? I don't think so. He doesn't know yet. Shadow overlapping shadow. Yeah, Korena-chan. No, for real, chillax, Korena. Yes, it is. All right. I respect your belief, Korena, but yep. Ugh. Yeah, of course. I mean, that's classic trauma. And the engraving on her back, absolutely. No, you need therapy. That's what therapy is for. I don't know. Are any of you a licensed professional? Hmm. A reframing. That's important. Back to the death of Lena, which is probably a good thing. Flower crushed. Nah, she's out there, baby. She's doing something. But we're not going to reveal that yet. Because she's gone? You fuck off, Theo. Yeah, it's manipulative and evil. Deny, 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 deny. I don't think so. I mean... The most mature thing comes out of Frederica? Weird. That's also, I think, how he sees you, Frederica. Yeah, sorry, Karana. Yeah, some things you just shouldn't say. Oh, brutal. Brutal. That was a cute little cutaway to reduce the tension of all these scenes, because it's been like high drama for this episode so far. Hi, Fido. Yeah. Yeah, you do have a history of doing that recently. Hmm. Okay. Yeah. Paradido. They're hardcore, man. They're serious business. Yep. Yep. Didn't we have a line about a blade too sharp, or was that in a different show? A blade that's too sharp will either be avoided or thrown away? Or avoided or used until it's dull. That was in this, I think. Y'all hotboxing? Cigarettes. Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, you say one thing, but you do another. Oh, a little talk. Yeah. It's a matter of self-respect. Sweet. And others' respect, but oop, ants on a carcass. And the wings reminiscent of the Morpho. Yeah, little bits and little bits. For sure. They're gonna lose bits and bits. Of course he is. Okay, so one shot. Oh god. This multi-layered pullout is very fun. This is a very fun shot. It's not super impressive because it's all just 3D stuff, but it's still a very fun shot. We're stopping here. Sweet. Mm-hmm. Devoured by little ants. We're in San. We're here? Where are we? Memories and places. She's seeing stuff. Okay, I'm confused. Is she still with them? Yeah, she is. Okay. So they are fully bringing her. I was a little confused. I thought she had been sent back, but I guess that was rescinded. Wow. A sea of field. Sweet. Yeah, it's a cool scene. Okay. So we're gonna drop that as a motive. Will we get a character promise it? What are you thinking, Sheen? What was that? We'll all go see the fireworks together. All right. That's an interesting one. What are we doing with these ants and moth? Like, my assumption is that's the Morpho and then the squad, but I don't know. Spider doesn't always follow orders. Indeedly doodly. Because of the conversation about the sea. Because of the grandeur of nature? Ah. I don't think so. Yeah, but they were people. Actually, that's not true. Ghosts always want something. Whoa, okay. Huh. But that's not true. It's not true. The freedom. Oh. You thought it was a last gasp. True death wish. Yeah, and a belief in destiny. Wow. So the reason is gone. Kiri is that excuse. Yeah, it's a self-convincing loop. Yep. She saw, yeah. No, that makes sense, Frederica. Sad, but it makes sense. Like him with Ray, I have to stay alive for this purpose. And then what? Just like him. Mm-hmm. Nothing to move toward. The fear at his core. Wow. We've never gotten that from Shin. That fear. That's fear. All right. Blown away. What are we moving toward? Here they come. Here they come. Hello. They know. Shit, he's gonna be excited. Excited. Woo! Oh, that's creepy. All that's left. Hey, this feels like the last setup episode. Feels like we're about to move into stuff next episode, and that's pretty fun. That's pretty fun. Now, this episode is not fun in terms of the fun stuff. A lot of sad Sheen. Sad Sheen being sad. Other characters attempt to convince Sheen that he shouldn't be sad. Is like the core thrust of the episode. Of course, it's far more than that, and it's really nicely done. And I think that the direction and shot composition is really, really solid and lends itself very effectively to a lot of these conversations and to building them into nice experiences that bring us into our characters' minds and let them express themselves, which is pretty fucking cool. Okay, so we set up this prototype anti-radar weapon, which is cool, and obviously very reminiscent of the Eintagsfliege, of the same thing that the Legion is doing. I think that's an interesting parallel or interesting idea. How to put it is a little bit complicated or a little bit tough for me at the moment, but there's something that has been going on throughout the show that I just sort of want to mention, which is that the humans are continuously becoming a little bit more like the Legion in various ways in order to fight them. And I think it plays into the concept of like becoming a monster to fight a monster, which in a lot of ways is a lot of Sheen's core. As a character, he chooses to take on this role of Reaper, of Shinigami, this like monstrous sort of ghost-like character in order to destroy ghosts, and that's something that we bring up and bring to the fore in this episode. But this idea that the technological innovations and advances that characters or that nations keep making in order to fight the Legion have to do a lot with the Legion. You know, the juggernauts themselves are quite similar in a lot of ways to the four-legged gunner platform things that the Legion uses. And that's that makes sense to me. It makes sense that they would do this. But then they're doing the sort of same thing with this like radar blocking technology via this like Eintagsfliege sort of thing, because now the individuals of the human network can communicate using the pararade technology, which is related at least somewhat to the technology that the Legion used to communicate across their wide area network thing, right? So they're sort of moving in similar directions to create the same sort of fighting conditions for the other side. And I think that's interesting. I think it plays in a little bit. All right, they've made a big decision. If we leave this it's over. Everyone's forced to do whatever it takes in order to survive, and of course that reflects on our little squad as well. Everyone doing whatever it takes in order to get through this. Good little opening conversation. All right, and here we go. Bleep deep. They're on the move, and stuff is going down. There'll be an all-night march. I don't care if they don't catch up, but... So, Sheen, take Frederica and go back. You're the only one who can. It's the only way. And we start off this conversation with our two characters in the same frame. I think we're going to talk a little bit about framing in this conversation, because I think it's effective. So our characters are walking together and talking together. They're on the same team here, right? They're directed in the same place. They're looking in the same direction. They're addressing each other. And then here we start to cut away from it. We start to separate them, right? Face out of frame, face in frame. Move toward it. Face in frame over the shoulder shot. Pretty simple, but they're still together, right? Until we start cutting away, cutting away, cutting away to deal with the diversion in the main unit, and we get to here. You know from the last time that fighting means instant death, and it's at this point where Raiden has said his initial piece, and we stop here. And we stop here in a geometric configuration that has meaning to it. Now, it's got more than just meaning to it. Like, these lines intersecting with this horizontal line just bring our eye to the characters. And we've got this sort of below the board and above the board feeling, where we've got golden light down here and darkness up here, which creates this sort of cut up sectioned frame. And then of course the prime barrier, which is in the center here, which splits our characters up, serves to put them on opposite sides of a wall between them. And that wall is of course a metaphorical one in this conversation, but it is there. You know that it would be instant death, and he says it would be better than having you lead us the way you are now. That last fight was too much. I don't know what is going on. But what's going on? And he says nothing. He's like, fuck you. You really think you can fool me that easily, idiot? We're doing these individual frames of character faces, and we cut up to the top. And this is antagonistic. But it's also something else, right? In the background, we've got these two railroad tracks that are going in opposite directions, or like splitting, diverging from each other. Sheen going off this way, Raiden going off this way, right? There's something to that. This is all very intentional, I think. I also think it's intentional that we use this shot. This brings up tension. When we have these above shots of characters, of two characters, it's usually when two characters are squaring off to fight. It's pretty infrequent that you get an above the head shot like this with a framing of like the space that they're in. This is a battle setup, is what this is. In terms of the feel of it. This, in any shonen, these two characters are about to throw hands. They're about to fight. They're sizing each other and their environments up, and we're doing this shot up above them to see their environment and their location. They're about to throw hands. But that's not what this is about, because this is metaphorical, not physical. They're conversing and they're throwing hands verbally. And they will get into a physical scuffle in a moment, right? And will shove Sheen up against the wall. But it won't be the way that it's being set up, and that's part of the point, and part of the like semi-subversion of the way that this goes. Is that this setup feels tactile and feels tense. But it's not going to be that. I can see a few things you can't yourself, so you're back to where you were when we met. So that's part of the story that we don't know about Raiden and Sheen. We've had it talked about by other characters before, but we don't fully know the story. Not opening up to anyone, like the name everyone calls you, the Reaper. So he says, fuck y'all, you can take her. And I'd rather follow it myself than take someone who will slow me down. So what we end up with, we've got these two characters who are doing like a second act tension thing, where they both know each other really well and they're capable of hurting each other. And so they're hurting each other intentionally. They're just stabbing each other to try to keep the other one away from them. And Sheen is doing it, I think, to some extent because he thinks that he'll get Raiden and the others killed if they follow him. he'll bring them in for his death wish. In the same way that we had the scene where he collapsed that like walkway behind himself because he thought what they were doing was too dangerous and he had to go on alone and die alone, right? Someone who will slow me down. And this is hurtful, right? He's genuinely hurting his squad. They are his most trusted allies. They trust him implicitly, and they trust themselves as well. And he turns to them and says, "You'll only slow me down." And they might know that it might be true because he is crazier than any of them. But it still hurts. You're not worth taking with me. And he says he crosses the barrier. So he walks through and crosses the barrier, nonchalantly enters Raiden's space, and is just walking past him, right? If this is a one-way mission, I better go myself. If you're intending to go home, there's no need to follow a path of no return. And he, how dare you? And they sit in the middle of the two train tracks, which are now straight, by the way. Like, if this wasn't enough just visual metaphor, these train tracks are straight. Now, maybe we've moved over a little bit, but I don't think so. This is the location that we were at in the centerpiece, right? This part. This train track was bent. This was off to an angle. And this one was straight. Let's just go back. Look. Same place, same location. This train track goes to the side. Same location, train track goes straight. Right? Something has changed physically in the background of this shot. Don't think you can keep everybody else alive. What the hell do you mean one-way mission? I'm not planning to die. Yeah, I bet, but you weren't planning on coming back alive either. What does he mean by this? Becoming a part of them? I think so. So why did you kill your brother? Wasn't it so you could keep growing forward? You didn't survive all of this just to get to that goal, did you? So don't misunderstand that. You have to come back. And Shin goes, then why? Why did I... And trails off. No answer. And looks away. Can't hold Raiden's gaze. Because he doesn't understand himself in this moment. Then why? Why did I... If it wasn't for that, then what was it for? And Raiden says, I don't want to die. Isn't that enough? And that's enough for me. But it's not enough for Shin. I think there's something right about that, actually. Like deeply right about that. I think it's something that I've talked about before, too. Avoiding death is not enough. You can live for only so long being pushed forward by fear. And many people live their entire lives being pushed forward only by fear, to be fair. It's doable, but it will destroy you. It will destroy you. What I mean is, if we step back from the context of the show, right? There are a couple of reasons to do anything. Carrot and stick, maybe you could say. So the question is, why do you, for example, go to work? Why do you go to work? Why do you produce something or carry stuff or do whatever you do? Why do you do that? Is it out of love and joy and desire? Or is it out of fear of the consequences? If I don't go to work, I'll lose my job. I'll lose my career. I won't have any money coming in. I'll lose my house. I'll lose the ability to feed myself. All of these things are bad and they're scary and I don't want any of those. Therefore, I will go to work. I think that's the way that a lot of people live their lives. I have certainly lived my life in that way before. Go to work because I must, because the alternative is insufferable, is to be starving and homeless, right? So go to work and do things out of fear. I don't think it works very well. I think if you don't have an intrinsic motivation to do the thing that you do, if you don't feel like it does something, what you're doing does something beyond allowing your own survival, if you don't have some goal to be moving toward, I think people shut down. I know I shut down if I don't have something like that. I know I do. I can't exist out of in a pure terror stress response. And that's where I was when I started this channel. You know, if you go back to those videos, you're looking at a terrified man, younger man, boyo, looking at a pretty scared man. But one who had this like spark of an idea, right? This idea that maybe I can do something worthwhile. Maybe it doesn't just have to be for the selfish reason of putting money in my pocket so that I can eat. Maybe it doesn't have to be because of that. Maybe I can work for something that's worth working for on its own and figure out a way to, in a way that I'm comfortable with, that I find ethical, that I find makes sense, to enable it to enable me to survive. And that's what I've done. And it works. And it works more sustainably for me. Significantly more. And the reason for that is that the motivation isn't just the fear. Now, there's fear there. I'm always going to be a little bit afraid. I'm a generally kind of an anxious person, honestly. I'm always going to be a little bit afraid that all of this will fall apart. And it can, and it might. But that fear isn't the reason that I get up and do the work. Or play, whatever you want to consider it. It's because I love it. And it's because I feel like every time I sit in front of this camera, there's an opportunity to potentially create something of great interest. And potentially create something of great value. To sit down and see something that changes the way that I think. And hopefully, I'm capable of putting it into words in a way that can change the way that other people think. And that seems worthwhile to me. And that's my motivation. That's the reason. All of this to say that I think on a broad scale, short term, Raiden might be right. I don't want to die, and that's enough. I just want to survive. But just surviving isn't living. Does that make sense? He's right and he's wrong. I think that's cool. I like that our characters aren't just, and sometimes they aren't just mouthpieces for ideals, for ideas. Pretty sure the others feel the same way. And I didn't really notice, but I think we can probably see that they're sneaking there. No, I guess not. I guess we can't see them. We do that, like pull out to the focal point in the background. But I guess there is no hint that they're back there. We are all traveling the same road together, one train track. If you're exhausted, we'll support you. And I like this moment of, well, it's a couple things. Visually and physically, the two of them are on the same side of this barrier that we had before as we pan away from them. And then beyond that, we have their two shadows overlapping. And it's like their two hairstyles overlap. It also makes me immediately think of like, it makes me think it's Kakashi on top of Sasuke. Sorry. It really does. Just like this is Kakashi hair up here, and he's got the headband probably, and then Sasuke hair down here, and like the spikes. But the idea that they're two overlapping and that they're like one entity with features of the both of them as a pair of friends. This works for me visually. This works. And then he steps away. Don't try to fight on your own. And they stand in a way that is the way that men stand when they've had a fight and resolved it, and they don't really, neither of them really wants to admit that like they've been convinced by the other. It's great. So we talk about it. Don't worry, they've known each other for a long time. Supposedly a lot happened. Kurana did a thing. Stay put. That's not true. And this is the one thing that I wrote down after the episode, and we're going to dive into it a little bit. Because I think I like it. I like it a lot. It's a really helpful thing. And this is one of those things where I saw it and I was like, ooh, that's something that I could talk about because that's something helpful that I have to remember myself. What Raiden said about something having control of him is probably true. Shin's been acting weird for a while. Thinking back, he's been weird ever since then. something having control over him is the best explanation of this. And it's great because I actually had this conversation with my flatmate, my roommate, my housemate a little while ago. Because he's got a 2-year-old. And the 2-year-old is a 2-year-old. He's a toddler. And he's just learning emotions, right? How they kind of work. And so I ended up, it was after something had happened with the kid, and my roommate was talking to me about how he didn't understand why this kid was acting this way, and wasn't able to just stop acting this way and start acting in a more normal way, right? And so I had to back up and bring up some stuff that I heard from a psychologist at one point about emotions and something really interesting and useful to think about them. And it has to do in a little bit of a way with like a little bit of a mythological context. And it's an idea that gods, the old animist style of gods, often are emblematic of things outside of us, gods of nature, gods of light, gods of water, things like that, right? But there are also gods of emotion, gods of rage, gods of joy, gods of pleasure and hedonism. And I think that that's a poignant idea because it encapsulates the way that we actually perceive emotions. When you get really angry, you are not in control over your body. And this was a very helpful one to express to him because he has what he'll call a Hispanic temper or a Cuban temper. And he gets incensed. When something ticks him off, he goes full tunnel vision into a blind rage, essentially. And he's aware of it. So I expressed it to him in those terms. When a strong emotion has hold of you, it really feels like a separate conscious entity outside of you suddenly has hold over you and is controlling you, and you are not in control of it. And that's the nature of our subconscious. We think that our conscious brain is capable of controlling our subconscious because we'd like to think that, but it's absolutely not true. It's far more powerful than you. Your fight or flight response is not something that you can control. If you've ever had a panic attack, you are fully aware of this because you can be sitting there going, there's nothing for me to be afraid of, and you're still, and your body is trying to kill itself. It's dying. It's like, bah! It's monstrous and awful. But the grips of a strong emotion, lust, love, hatred, anger, fear, joy, are powerful entities outside of you, more powerful than you. And your ability to control them is not that great. So I expressed this to my roommate in those terms. Your ability, my roommate's ability, we've had a couple of fights, and you get really angry. And you are unable for those minutes to control it. And he almost got angry at me for telling him this, right? I could see it like that simmering in him, like, oh, how dare you speak to me that way, right? But then he calmed himself down, like, no, okay. Yeah, you're right. That is definitely something that I have. And so I pointed at him, like, what you just did, that thing where you went, I'm getting angry. This isn't worth getting angry over it. Calm down and used your physicality, like your breathing, your like unclench your fists, don't go into that fight or flight response. That sequence that you just did, my roommate just did, that's what your son doesn't know how to do because he's a child. And so when he gets into the grip of an emotion, whether it's frustration or fear or anger or sadness or a toy gets taken away from him and he's bawling, he's in the grips of that thing and he doesn't know how to manage his autonomic response. He doesn't know how to manage himself or like stop that response from happening or calm himself down. And so your goal is in no way to snap him out of that response because that's short term and that's for you. You just don't want your child to be crying because it's annoying and you get frustrated, right? And it becomes this whole cycle. But what you need to do is you need to teach him to control that response because control over it is control over self. And while we love to think of those things as something outside of us having control over us, it is still a part of you. And your capability, your capacity to control it is the most powerful thing that you could possibly teach this child. All of this just from this one line. As they're looking at Sheen and going, what is controlling this man, our friend? What is in control of him? And there is answer to it. There are answers to it. Sheen is controlled by a lot of things. A lot of things. A weight of expectations that he's placed upon himself. A fear that he's tamped down so far that it almost doesn't exist. It's just cool. It's just cool. This is cool. And it just taps into something emotionally that I think is valid and true. And I think is useful. That emotions, while it's important to be aware that they are you, it's also really important to be aware that you're not as in control of them as you think you are, as you'd like to think that you are. And it's kind of like knowing your monster, something that I've talked about in this show and others many times. Knowing your monster and knowing your capacity for bad juju, for violence, for harming other people, for greed, for the 7 deadly sins and all their accoutrements, allows you to interface with those monsters, those bad things, and utilize them if you need to. I think the same is true of emotion. First off, because being controlled by emotion is uncomfortable, and nobody really likes it, right? Except like ecstasy and joy. Those things are nice, but try being in joy for a long time. It doesn't happen, first off. It's hard to get yourself into a genuinely like joyous state for a long time, and it's super draining. But it's nowhere near as draining as despair or grief, right? But being able to control those emotions and utilize them is super, super useful. Knowing that they're less in your control than you think is also super useful. Because just like with the monstrosity, if you don't know that they are capable of controlling you, then there's no chance that you can control them back. But if you are aware that they can control you, you can take steps to prevent them from controlling you, right? And you can do what my friend did, which is to notice that he was getting angry and prevent it before it became that full tunnel, right? That's powerful. That's power over yourself. What more powerful thing could you have? Anyway, I just wanted to bring that whole thing up because, again, I think it's useful. And again, that's my goal, right? He's been weird ever since then. He'd never do anything that meant certain death or let anybody else do so. And she says, Sheen is fine, he wouldn't lead us. And I like this framing that they're sort of out in the open of this doorway and she's in this cracked window over here. It's a framing device, right? Like she's framing her viewpoint of Sheen and we're framing her as separate and kind of like looking at something that isn't there. It's just clever. This episode's full of clever shot composition and I think it really, really works. He's not going to be our personal Reaper forever. And she says that she thinks she understands how he feels. I know a little bit about what a child feels when their family says they're not needed. Yeah, deep trauma. Deep trauma. They wonder if it's their fault. Absolutely. They might know in their head that it isn't, but they still blame themselves. And Sheen's gone a ways beyond that, right? Having been assaulted by his brother, being like a ton of stuff. And I like that this is another element of that subtle focus, right? We've seen what's on Anju's back. We don't need to show it again. We just need this shot to evoke it and to bring it back into our minds. I think that's excellent. Especially since Sheen wasn't just told by his brother. Walking in front of Chainlink is evocative. Again, I actually should mention this again just before, because I haven't mentioned it in the discussion yet. These scenes on this walkway are very Monogatari-esque. The color palette, the chain link fences, the signs, the railroads, and then symbolism around that, the use of shadow and stuff. It really makes me wonder if there's somebody who's worked at Shaft working on this episode. Just curious. I'll go check, but I don't know. We were just relying on him and intending to leave him someday, and we've got this fence between them in a sort of a way. They said the Republic isn't responding to radio calls. The country must have ceased to exist. And we have this crushed flower. And that's a part of Sheen's sadness. The Major wasn't able to catch up. And we do this whole, you can take advantage of him because Sheen. And yeah, he's probably aware. This is a great little goofy scene. I think it's super crucial that this is here as we transition from this very personal thought experiment conversation with Raiden and Sheen and conversing about it from the others. We have this very funny sequence where Kurena does a goofy and everybody's like, nah, blah blah blah. Like, I'm a good sniper. I can be useful. Not enough. Don't worry, I'm not going to run off on my own, but I would feel better if I did. And I really actually wonder, would he leave if Fido wasn't there? I think he would. I think he would. I'm curious about this, So the big bug being devoured by ants, it feels like the Morpho to me, just with the wings and the design of it. And then the ants feel like the Ragenleifs, but I don't really know. Okay, so we talk about the Republic technology and how cool it is. The battlefield is daily life for them. We get another nice framing here. This is another... See, the episode director or storyboarder of this episode knows what they're doing in terms of creating frames. Frames within frames and stuff. Like, that's what we've got here. And then the dilapidated railing as well. It's really solid. I just think that a sharp blade should be put to good use. If we can use that blade a long time, all the better. We need to get them back fast because the Legion cannot take them. We have a nice little convo here with Bernhold and Hilda. Hilda? I forget her name. Fuck. Spider Lady. And I'm going to assume that this is the line that Vita changed because I think that this line said, and I suggested you go back to the front, which is not the right thing. So they'd make fun of us. We got to go. We got to do the thing. Got this. Killing legions. And we're accumulating little bits of damage on all of them, which is a cool moment. I also think this is a cool scene. It's simple in terms of, like, this isn't the most complicated thing to do in the world because these are CG models to do this big panning, sliding pull-out shot, but it's still really fun. I still think it's a fun idea, and I like it. Tomorrow will be the last day. We'll probably catch up to it. Awesome. The setup is here. We get all these moments of her looking out at the world. And we get this gorgeous scene of a sea of grass, talking about the sea, and a kind of when we all graduate, let's all go to see the fireworks together kind of thing. This is an anime trope, okay? This is an anime trope. We should all go and we'll all see the cherry blossoms together, or we're all gonna go on right? This indicates to me that somebody's gonna die. Maybe all of them. And they're not going to end up getting to see the sea together. But some of them will. At least one of them will, I think. And Frederica. That's what I expect. There's so much I don't know. I want to go and see it. This is cute. This is cute and fun and optimistic. And we'll fucking see. And Fido is watching. We have ourselves a little conversation. Your presence in that outdoors this whole time might explain the reason why you're so disinterested in humanity. That beauty exists only because there are no humans. Maybe that scenery is what the Legion wants. I don't think so, but it's an interesting thought. Ghosts aren't supposed to want anything. And that reflects on him, right? Because he's someone who should have died. So he's a ghost. He shouldn't want anything. He's convincing himself. How do you know? Because I'm one of them. I failed to die, and I haven't been able to want anything since then. I don't want to see the sea. I don't have anything I want to do or any place I want to go. It doesn't really cause me any problems, but it's true. I just want nothing. But is he right? Does he actually know himself? I don't think so. But it was fun to be free, right? And he says, yes, because I thought it would be over soon. But unfortunately, we survived. The future is too long for someone like me. And he says that he's just using the night as an excuse. The brother was everything, and he needed another goal. You should be aware that you're looking in the mirror the wrong way. Not nearly as cold as you think you are. Because you are helping others, right? I wanted to free him, and you enabled that. And yet she's still afraid of his death, of losing him. And so they bond over their death wish. Both of them feel like the world would be better if they weren't alive. And both of them were staying alive for some specific purpose. To end somebody. Him, his brother, her knight. And that's their only motive that they're aware of. But when Kiri dies, I'll lose the excuse, and that scares me. You tried to see the future for what it is. You tried to look directly at the dark, untrodden path before you. But you shouldn't look at that alone. Not having any wishes is the same as not wanting to be alive. And he believes he's not truly alive. Just the Reaper. The Reaper who can't join those who go with him. The ferryman who can never enter the other side of the river. That's some good stuff, dog. And the Morpho is aware that they're there. Sheen feeling trapped by his own lack of motivation is rough and relatable, and I think it's really excellent. Okay, I want to ANN-ify this episode. I want to know who storyboarded and directed this episode. We're on episode 20. Do I have to go get a Core 2? Yeah, 86 TV2 sequel. Okay. 20. Tomohiko Ito is the storyboard artist. Script, Toshiya Ono, great, who will also do 22 and 23. Episode director, Haru Shinomiya. Okay, let's see what we got here. Tomohiko Ito is the storyboard artist for this episode, also did episode 15 and 23. Storyboard on an episode of Chiayafudu, Attack on Titan, 86, Gunslinger Girl, Hello World, Hunter x Hunter 2011 for the ED. Cool. Multiple episodes of Monster, the TV. Numerous episodes of Sword Art Online and Sword Art Online Alternative and stuff, so that's some A1 stuff. Full director of Silver Spoon, the TV. Okay, so a number of A1 shows and a good number of Madhouse shows, solid Madhouse shows. Cool. Toshiya Ono is our scriptwriter. Wrote some scripted some Promised Neverland, scripted some Sweet Precure. Not a lot of things. Okay, fair enough. And our director, I believe. Yep. Episode director Haru Shinomiya. One episode of Komi Can't Communicate. One episode in the ED of Shinkansen Henkei Robo Shinkalion Z. And one episode of 86. The fuck? Oh, okay. None of these people indicate to me that they should be capable of design and visual storytelling on the level that occurred in this episode. Rad! That's good to know. I mean, cool. Love new blood in the industry. That's great. So, our final, I think, no, I could be totally wrong. Our final, social episode. We put everything, I think we've lined up all our ducks. We've got this, we should all go to see the fireworks together, the ocean together. That's an element. A desire. And we've got this setup of Sheen doesn't desire anything and therefore just wants to die because the lack of desires is the same as not wanting to live, right? And in the process of his next battles, what we can do, if we do this the way that I think we're going to do this, is demonstrate something that he desires. Or show him that there's something worth desiring in this world. And that could be the kind of thing where revealing that Lena is still alive, because I'm pretty sure Lena is still alive, is the sort of thing that will... there's something worth living for Sheen. And I'm excited to see how we play that out. I could be totally off base. He could just death wish his way into death and self-sacrifice his way into saving the world or something. I don't know. There are plenty of ways we could run with this story. But that pairing, that duality, I think is what we're headed toward, and I expect great things from it. So that's going to be a wrap for me for 86 episode 20. I hope you've enjoyed it, and I hope to catch you next week for more episodes as we get into the spicy stuff. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you next time. Peace.